My dear students of HS first year Alternative English, I am Dr. Ramyabrata Chakraborty. In today's online class, I shall start a poem from your prescribed text, Chinar. The name of the poem is The Daffodils, composed by William Wordsworth. At the very outset, it will be customary to know little about the poet William Wordsworth. Now about the poet. William Wordsworth was one of the first English Romantic poets who, along with Samuel Taylor Coleridge, began the wave of Romanticism in English literature with their joint publication Lyrical Ballads in the year 1798. Romanticism was a wave of literary expression that originated in Europe towards the end of the 18th century. Characterized by its emphasis on emotional and spiritual values, as well as its deep engagement with nature and the self, Romanticism caused a revolutionary stir in the history of English poetry and rhythmic compositions. According to Wordsworth, poetry originates from emotions recollected in tranquility. Wordsworth is also called the highest priest of nature. To him, both nature and man are interlinked. His poems are the testimonials of his love towards man and nature. His deep love of nature is intense, and that's why he can say, I quote, "Nature never did betray the heart that loved her." Unquote. Some of his well-known poems are The Prelude, Tintern Abbey, Ode to Intimations of Immortality, The Solitary Reaper, etc. A poet laureate, William Wordsworth remains one of the most popular Romantic poets. Now about the poem The Daffodils. Now, before going through the poem, we have to understand the meaning of the word daffodil. A daffodil is a yellow spring flower with a central part shaped like a tube and a long stem. This is the image of daffodils. Now, a pre-reading of the poem. The Daffodils is a lyric poem inspired by an event on 15th April 1802. On this very day, Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy went to their friends, the Clarksons, at Eusmere. When they were coming back to Grasmere, they saw a large number of golden daffodils growing on the bank of a lake, Alswater, in the Lake District. They both were astonished by the mesmeric beauty of these daffodils, which were fluttering and dancing with the light breeze. Inspired by this delightful spectacle, Wordsworth composed this poem in 1804 and published it in 1807. The poem is written in 4 6-line stanzas with an ABAB-CC-CC rhyme scheme. Often referred to as Daffodils, it is one of England's most famous poems. Although its lines are profoundly engaged with the realities of life on the ground, the flowers, the water, the wind, they are written as if from above. Wordsworth is determined to establish a visionary dimension to the poem, stretching the limits of the physical world, exploring the sympathetic relationship between diverse elements, earth, water, and air, and arising to a climax in which the limits of both time and the human mind are challenged. Now we are to explore the poem stanza by stanza. Now at the very beginning we are to read the first stanza, and after completion of the stanza we will analyze the particular stanza along with knowing the detail about the use of poetic devices in the particular stanza, as well as understanding the meaning of the some new words in this particular stanza. So I am reading the first stanza. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Now, first of all, I will talk about the rhyme scheme. I have already told you about the rhyme scheme of each stanza of the poem is ABABCC. Now, what is it? ABABCC means A means the rhyming sound of the first line, B means the rhyming sound of the second line, then A means the rhyming sound of the third line, then again B means the rhyming sound of the fourth line. Now you can see the first line ends with the sound cloud, D sound, and it resembles the sound of the third line, crowd, crowd, AA. Clear? Now second line ends with the sound hills, and it resembles the sound of daffodils. That's why it is said the rhyme scheme is AB, AB, then CC. Fifth line and sixth line actually resembles in sound trees, breeze. Now this is about the rhyme scheme of this particular stanza, and it repeats, the same rhyme scheme repeats in all the four stanzas. Now I have to understand the meaning of some words like wander. Now what does it mean? W-A-N-D-E-R. Wander means to walk slowly around or to a place, often without any particular sense of purpose or direction. Next, float. Now what does it mean? Float means to move slowly on water or in the air. Vales. Vales means valleys. Host. This is another word we have to understand the meaning. Host, a large number of. Then there is fluttering. Fluttering means a quick, light movement. Now we are to check the uses of poetic devices in this particular stanza. Now the first line of the stanza, I wandered lonely as a cloud, is a beautiful example of simile, a poetic device. Now what is simile? A simile is a direct comparison between two different things using as or like. In the above line, the poet has compared himself to a cloud by using as. Then in the third line, we can see the use of another poetic technique or poetic device. Now what is it? When all at once I saw a crowd. This is an example of hyperbole, and hyperbole is nothing but an exaggerated statement. In this particular line, the poet has used crowd to mean a lot of daffodils. This is an obvious exaggeration. In the fifth line of the stanza, there is another poetic device. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, is an example of alliteration. Now, alliteration means the repetition of consonant sound at the beginning or in the stressed syllables of nearby words. Here, this particular sentence is or line is an example of alliteration because of the repetition of B's sound. In the sixth line, there is also an application of poetic device, and this is nothing but personification, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Now, personification means attribute human characteristics to the non-human objects. When a poet gives human qualities to an inanimate object, it is called personification. In this particular expression, the daffodils are attributing human characteristics by using the word dance. Now we are to analyze the first stanza of the poem. Now in the first stanza, the poet says that he is alone and having nature in mind, wandering from one place to another like a cloud which flies over valleys and hills with the wind. All of a sudden, he sees a large number of golden daffodils which are growing on the bank of the lake under the trees. A light breeze is blowing, making the daffodils flutter and dance with it. Next, stanza 2. I am reading it. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Now in this stanza also we can see the application of rhyme scheme ABABCC. Now ABABCC how? Shine line. Again the first line resembles the third line. The sound of first line resembles the sound of third line. The sound of second line resembles the sound of fourth line. And fifth line and sixth line the same sound. ABABCC. Then we have to understand the meaning of some words or expression like Milky Way. Now what is Milky Way in this particular stanza? Milky Way, a wide band of millions of stars in the sky. Our sun is one of these stars. Then tossing. What is the meaning of the word toss? Toss means to move one's head this way or that. Sprightly. What does it mean? Sprightly means full of life and energy. Now we are to see the uses of poetic devices in this particular stanza. Now the first two lines exemplify a particular figure of speech. Now what is it? It is also an example of simile. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way is an example of simile. Now simile, we have already discussed, is a direct comparison between two different things using as or like. In the above lines, the poet has compared the flowers with the shining stars on the Milky Way. Then there is another beautiful figure of speech, and this is called hyperbole. 10,000 saw I at a glance. This is an excellent example of hyperbole. And hyperbole, we have already discussed, is an exaggerated statement. Here the poet has used 10,000 to mean a lot of daffodils, but he must not have counted them there at a glance. This is an obvious exaggeration. Next line is also an example of beautiful poetic device, and it is called personification. Tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Now personification, we have already discussed, is nothing but to attribute human characteristics to the non-human objects. Here the daffodils are attributing human characteristics by using the word dance. Now we are to analyze the second stanza. In the second stanza, the poet says that for him, the view of these beautiful golden daffodils is similar to the stars shining and twinkling in the Milky Way. As far as the poet can see, he finds only the daffodils growing along the margin of a bay, and they seem to the poet to be in very large numbers. All of these flowers are tossing their heads in a sprightly dance. Now it is stanza 3. I am reading it. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the shore to me had brought. Now again in this stanza, the same rhyme scheme is applied or used. They, gay, glee, company, thought, brought. Abby, Abby, CC. Now the meaning of some expressions or words. Outdid means surpassed. Sparkling means shining brightly. The word glee means a feeling of happiness. Gay means happy and full of fun. Now dear students, you are to make note of these particular words with their meanings. Now jocund means cheerful. The word gaze means to look steadily at somebody or something for a long time. Now the analysis of the third stanza. In the third stanza, the poet says that in the nearby lake, the waves are dancing with the wind and sparkling because of the sun rays falling on them. But the beauty of the golden daffodils is so attractive and charming that it easily surpasses the beauty of the dancing and sparkling waves. The poet feels happy and blessed in such an enchanting and cheerful company. The poet is completely absorbed in the beauty of the daffodils, and for the moment he has lost touch with his surroundings. He considers himself fortunate and very happy that he has been the witness to such a wonderful sight of the daffodils. Now it is the last stanza, stanza 4. For oft when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Now, this stanza also follows the same rhyme scheme, AB, AB, CC. Lie resembles with I, mood resembles with solitude, feels resembles with daffodils, feels daffodils. Now the meaning of some words. Oft means often. Pensive means thinking deeply about something, especially because you are sad or worried. The word bliss means extreme happiness. Then the word solitude means loneliness, the state of being alone, especially when you find this pleasant view of the daffodils. Now in this particular stanza, the last line is an example of a beautiful poetic device, and this is called alliteration, the repetition of consonant sound at the beginning or the stressed syllables of nearby words. The repetition of the sound D in this line and dances with the daffodils is an example of alliteration. Now we are to analyze the last stanza of the poem. In the last stanza of the poem, the poet William Wordsworth says that whenever he lies down on his bed, either thinking about anything or not thinking, the images of daffodils flash upon his imagination. It usually happens only when the poet is all alone. These images of daffodils have a magical effect on the poet. These images fill the heart of the poet with pleasure. The poet also feels like dancing with the daffodils. The last stanza of the poem is the most important part of the poem and is the essence of the poem. In this stanza, the poet speaks about the healing and refreshing effect of nature and also praises solitude. William Wordsworth is mainly a nature poet, and for him there is nothing which is superior to and better than nature. He breathes through with nature and finds solace and spiritual peace in it. In his opinion, nature has the solution for all the problems of mankind. It is through nature that he seeks salvation. The memories of the daffodils fill his heart with pleasure and joy, and he feels like dancing along with the daffodils. This shows the healing and refreshing effect of nature on the poet. Here, the poem ends. Thank you.